Hello, and welcome to our webcast for April 13, 2018.
Friday the 13th.
Yes. Could you put it in English, please? That's Friday the 13th.
Tu l'as perdu.
No, je peux pas parler. Friday the 13th.
You need a ghost. Olaf the snowman isn't scary enough.
But a snowman is white, a ghost is white.
Yeah. Okay.
It's Friday the 13th. Anyway.
Yeah.
My name is Christian Debré, and this is Amy Asbrook, the director of Toujours Vivant, Not Dead Yet. And also joining us, Taylor Hyatt, our policy analyzer and outreach coordinator.
Hi.
Toujours Vivant, Not Dead Yet is a non-religion organization by and for people with disability and our allies. Our goal is to inform, unify, and give voice to disability rights opposition, to assisted suicide and euthanasia and other end-of-life practices that discriminates against disabilities. So today's topics is disability and advertising, part 1. Amy will help us to this subject.
Yep.
Through this treatment.
I'll do my best anyway. Okay, this week we're looking at the relationship between disability and advertising. People with disabilities are rarely shown in mainstream advertisements. A 2017 article that appeared on the Ogilvy advertising firm's website stated that, quote, people with disabilities make up 17.9% of the UK population, but are only represented by 0.06% of people featured in ads.
It's a very weak,
small, less than 1%.
Yeah,
just a little over 0.5%. And for 17% of the population, that's a little odd.
Close to 18%.
Yeah. So that's, I think, it's important to stop and just keep that figure in mind, because that is how badly we're represented in mainstream
And the
advertising.
proportion is rising because the population is aging.
Right. There are more and more people with disabilities, but they still represent such a small number of people in advertising. Yet, the disability community offers a huge potential market. In the US alone, approximately 57 million people have disabilities. Various estimates show that they spend anywhere from $200 to $500 billion, billion with a B, per year. A 2016 report showed that roughly 6 million disabled Canadians spend $55 billion a year.
Which is quite normal compared to USA.
Right.
Number of the right.
It's a tenth, so that's about right. These numbers do not count family members, friends, and other contacts. And this means that businesses are ignoring a lot of potential customers by not advertising with them. So companies hesitate to show disabled people using their products due to the visual nature of advertising, which emphasizes physical beauty and perfect bodies. Openly displaying disability also reminds non-disabled viewers that their current physical state is temporary. And we often say temporarily able-bodied. I say non-disabled, but it's, anybody could become disabled at any time, and
most of us will become disabled when we are getting old.
Right, but I think that when advertising executives say that they don't want to use disabled people, it's kind of an excuse for their lack of including people. A 2014 episode of the CBC radio series Under the Influence, which focuses on the role of advertising in society, also illustrates the exclusion of disabled people. A listener sent in a question about how to market to people with disabilities as a specific demographic. The program's host, Terry O'Reilly, who is an award-winning advertising executive, misunderstood the question and suggested the use of closed captioning and described video. Yeah, great. Big help. This answer was also inaccurate. Video descriptions have never been provided for commercials. Although the show has explored marketing aimed at women and the LGBT community, people with disabilities haven't yet been featured. And, you know, he looks pretty far-fetched topics on his show. So the fact that he hasn't covered disability and just how badly he screwed up that answer, how ignorant the answer was, is pretty shocking, frankly. I mean, it wouldn't have taken more than a few seconds to do a quick search and come up with a bunch of articles like we did. But there you go. Okay, the first appearance of disabled people in popular media were linked to charities run by non-disabled people. These organizations raised funds by promoting the idea that disabled people needed the kindness, pity, and care of the non-disabled population to survive.
Which is not true.
Well, yeah, I mean, basically, they were making money for themselves by exploiting disabled people. Most of the funds raised went to operations, marketing, and medical research, with little left over for direct services to the disabled people they were supposed to be helping. The links between disability and pity is still so strong that some companies fear any mention of disability will be confused with an awareness campaign or a fundraising campaign. And in fact, that's the majority of where you see disabled people in advertising. Not exclusively, but mostly.
It's like all we care about is disability issues and not buying shoes and cars and eggs and other normal things.
Exactly. Two themes arise from the charity model. In inspiration porn, the disabled people are praised for ordinary activities like shopping or riding the bus. On the other hand, extraordinary accomplishments like athletic feats are held out as the standard to achieve. These super crips spread the message that disabled people can rise above their conditions, especially if they have a positive attitude, while ignoring the barriers that truly disable people. And there's a saying that has made the tour of the internet that the only disability is a bad attitude, which is absolute crap.
Yeah.
Crappy. Crap. Yeah. And, you know, it just gives, it explains why people have this idea that disability isn't real. It's just something that people complain about, but that's not true. Non-disabled observers are relieved of the responsibility to promote equal access and can attribute disabled people's frustration to their individual circumstances rather than discrimination. So they can say, oh, it's not our fault, you just have a bad attitude. Okay, the slogan for Canada's Paralympic competition this year is a case in point. It was, "Greatness is rare." This raises the question, do people with disabilities only deserve to be seen when they accomplish great things? What does it say about disabled people who aren't professional athletes like the rest of us?
Yeah, most people.
Right, so if we only see disabled people when it comes time for the Paralympics in advertising, what does it say about the rest of us? Yeah. Okay, in the past few years, it has become trendy to include disabled kids in fashion ads and magazines. Though Campaigns should reflect the full range of people who wear the company's clothes. Often the strongest message a viewer comes away with, "Aw, that's cute." Compare this to the non-disabled kids whose mini versions of adult clothes are shown as cool and edgy. Did you want to comment on that? Taylor, did you want to comment on that?
I was going to save my comment for, well, I'll mention it now. One thing that I found really frustrating when trying to research this was that only certain devices and certain conditions are acceptable on TV. I spent most of today looking for someone with a communication disorder in an ad.
Mm-hmm.
And found one done by the UK disability charity Scope. It was pretty awful. A gentleman in his wheelchair sitting in front of a train track. You can hear him trying to talk and getting the attention of the other passengers in the train station. Turns out he's just singing really loudly to whatever band he was listening to. And the caption was, "Relax, he's just another Radiohead fan."
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Okay, one of the most patronizing ads we've seen was created by Canadian Tire for the Rio Olympics in 2016. It shows a boy sitting passively in a wheelchair on his apparently inaccessible porch, watching as neighborhood kids play basketball. The other boys notice that he is left out and invite him to join them. The boy finds the other kids using bicycles, an office chair, a wagon, and other wheeled seats to simulate playing wheelchair basketball. This gesture of inclusion is supposed to reflect the spirit of Canada, hence Canadian Tire. Any positive message is overshadowed by the passivity of the disabled boy and the inaccessible porch. And in contrast, there is a 2013 commercial for Guinness beer that shows a group of men playing a game of wheelchair basketball, like real wheelchair basketball. And the end of the ad reveals that only one of them actually has a mobility impairment. Disability is portrayed in this ad as normal, and equity has been achieved in a way that isn't condescending. Amazing! So, it's a bunch of guys who are clearly good wheelchair basketball players, and they're having at it, and they're tipping each other over, as often happens in wheelchair basketball. And then, it turns out only one of the guys has a mobility impairment. So it's, it's exactly the same message. Non-disabled people can reach out and include disabled people, but it's done in so different a way that it's not nasty and icky. Okay, incidentally, these two ads include no dialogue or voiceover explaining the visuals, thus making the message inaccessible to blind viewers like me. This is a common and growing trend in video advertising, and it pisses me off. You see ads that are just music, and there's there's writing on the screen, but obviously somebody who can't read can't get anything out of it, and the message is completely lost on those of us with visual impairments. Okay, wheelchairs and other mobility aids are still the most common representation of disability in advertising, followed by deaf people using sign language. People with visual disabilities and neurodiverse people are rarely shown. Burger King came up with a campaign for National ASL Day in 2016. Their mascot, the King, asked deaf fans to create a sign for their famous Whopper. And a related commercial showed him in a restaurant near Gallaudet University, where all the signs and menus had been changed to finger-spelled ASL. This is not how ASL is used. And this ignorant misstep shows that the campaign was not developed by disabled advertising.
Yeah, tell people know how to read.
Right, and you know,
Probably.
The image of the Whopper, or they use images of the food, which is perfectly reasonable for a deaf person to use. Not very helpful to blind people, but you know, whatever. Okay, not everything made in the past few years has been horrible. A series of Malteser commercials from Mars Incorporated featured real-life stories related to disabilities. The best-known clip involved a woman using an electric wheelchair. She's in a park with a group of friends describing an embarrassing incident she had with her boyfriend, and they get bonus points for giving her a partner and a sex life. So one of the other ones was, it's all in sign language with subtitles, and it's about somebody's dog eating her hearing aid. Pretty funny. Anyway, Stephanie Woodward of the Center for Disability Rights was featured in an ad for Honey Maid graham crackers 3 years ago. Her wheelchair is clearly visible, but both the chair and the accessible environment are shown without comment. How ordinary. In this case, a well-connected advocate was noticed by a company who recognized disability as an element of diversity. But as we mentioned in our episode on stereotypes last month, people with disabilities don't often have the opportunity or resources to create more accurate portrayals, and they aren't frequently employed in advertising agencies. So, you know, that's having access to the means of production. Oh, well. As for the disabled, as long as disabled people remain invisible in everyday situations, limited to awareness and fundraising campaigns, non-disabled people will continue to fear us and our disabilities. This fear will fuel the increase in demand for assisted suicide and euthanasia.
Yeah, any kind of pressure to people increase the number of assisted suicide and euthanasia.
Right, and as long as we're still hidden and nobody sees us, and certainly nobody sees us in ordinary everyday situations, they're going to think, oh, disability is a tragedy, disability is this, disability is that. And showing disabled people in everyday situations in advertising will go a long way toward normalizing disability for the general public. And actually, it's a really good forum, because a person is at home, they're in private space, they can stare all they want at the disabled person and nobody's going to get offended, and you know, they can take time to think about the situation. There's no obligation for them to, they don't have to feel like they're supposed to go help the person. So it's, you know, it's a good medium for people to see disabled people in ordinary situations. Okay, so did you want to add anything, Taylor, before I talk about this week?
Apparently I'm having a microphone issue. I was thinking about the stat from Britain that I stumbled on while researching this stuff. Only 1 in, is it 6 people in Britain know a person with a disability? So how are you going to get comfortable with it and expose yourself to it other than media if you're not meeting these people in real life?
Well, you know, they probably do know somebody with a disability, but either the disability is hidden, or they think of the person as a person and not as a person with a disability. Oh, well, that's just Uncle Tom. You know, he's got the.
He's just a little bit bizarre.
He's got the amputation, but he's not disabled. He's just Uncle Tom. So.
Well, Uncle Tom is deaf.
Yeah.
And he's not disabled.
Yeah.
Just that.
Okay, so next week we will talk about how advertising can be used to make disability normal, more about awareness campaigns and how advertising directed at disabled people is different from that directed at the mainstream non-disabled public. So, if you have any questions about the topics that we discuss here, did you do that on purpose?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
I did a 13. Woo.
Okay.
The last one was not, but this one
Right.
was.
The first one wasn't that one on purpose.
I guess we have to cover the exact same things, including the haunted house that you guys supposedly have.
Exact same thing, French and English. Yeah. Okay. So you can visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/toujours vivant, not dead yet, all one word. You can visit our website at tvndy.ca. You can email us at info@tv-ndy.ca, or you can follow us on Twitter @TVNDY. Thanks to Taylor for helping us out, and thanks to Christian also.
Thank you, everybody.
We'll see you all next time. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.